Hi everyone, it's Justine here from House of Mahalo. Hello, good to see you. So today I'm doing my video for the Who Knew July Could Be So Interesting collaboration. This is a collab that we're running in the Facebook group at the moment, which some lovely people are helping us out with. And it's all about interesting stuff happening in July or interesting facts about July. And we're using those to inspire us to make something. So my sort of fact that inspired me was that one of the birthstones for July is the ruby. And so I started thinking about things that I could do with the colour red or ruby. And I found this. This is really an antique music sort of folder, which, as you can see, it does have a spine but only just. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's inlaid with all of gold on the front. On the back is embossed, and there's an inscription inside from 1882. Now, I've had this in my stash for something like a year because I wanted to make it into an ephemera folder writing set type thing, following a tutorial from Ruby and Pearl, who I have linked down below for you to have a look at her original video. This has been on my to-do list for a long time, and I've put off doing it because I didn't want to ruin the cover, but I think with this collab it's pushing me out of my comfort zone to give it a go. So this is what we're going to be making, some kind of folder. Now, I am following the tutorial, but only just. I am changing it up to suit me and what I've got. So I'm going to be filming this video part as a voiceover because I don't know how long this is going to take me, and I don't know really the depths of what's involved in this project. So I'm going to run the rest of this in a voiceover so that it allows me to speed things up whilst talking to you normally, and also it allows me to tell you a little bit about the ruby. But before we get into rubies and birthstones, I just want to talk a little bit about what it is that I'm doing here. So I've got these couple of sheets of 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. I've already cut the Tim Holtz piece down to size. That's what's going to line my back cover. And then I wanted this ditzy printed paper to be a flip out for us to add, additional pockets or whatnot. So I'm just going to score along this line here. I think I was scoring at about 3 inches, but I wasn't measuring. I was just simply going by what I needed the paper to be, what size I needed it to be. And as you can see, I completely forgot the size of my scoreboard, so I did tear my paper a little bit, but not to worry, I just put washi on both the front and back, and that was perfectly fine. I wasn't going to waste the paper or anything. So this is going to act as our little flip out, and we're simply going to fold that over, have that be our flap, and then we're going to have the 2 pieces on the back cover. So a little bit about rubies and birthstones then, just whilst you're watching me do that. The ruby is derived from the Latin word rubere, however you say it, I'm not sure. That means red, and it signifies love and passion. But in ancient India, the ruby was known as the king of precious stones for its rarity, its hardness, apparently it's second only to the diamond, for its beauty and its mystical powers. So the ancient Indians believed that the ruby symbolizes power and youthful energy, while the medieval Europeans believed that rubies bestowed health, wisdom, wealth, and success in love. And ancient cultures believed the ruby could ward off evil. So the July birthstone is the ruby. That is the main birthstone. But July has also been linked to other gemstones, namely sardonyx, sapphire, onyx, and carnelian, to name just a few. But it's the ruby that is the one that's really known as the birthstone. So as you can see, I'm just popping my my flap piece, around the Tim Holtz just to check my sizing is correct, like so. So that's going to flip out to reveal pockets on the back cover, and this flappy piece is also going to have a notepad attached to it. This is the original title page from the music book. I wanted to use this in the project. I was determined to use it. So I had to cut it down a little bit, but I was able to keep most of the paper. And I'm just simply going to glue that onto the piece that flaps out, just as a decorative element. And as I say, I really wanted to use the original paper in the project. So I'm just using my Uhu stick, my glue stick, to glue all of this down. The paper is a little thin and fragile, so I did have to be careful with how I was doing it, but the glue stick worked just fine. Now, as you can see, I cut the page down a little bit too much, so we do have a bit of a red border, but I do cover that with some lace later on. And as you can see, we're going to have the Tim Holtz on the back cover. That's going to hide our flap, and then we're going to have that title page flip out, which I think is going to look really, really cool. Well, it did turn out cool. At this point, I thought it was going to turn out cool, but yeah, it did end up looking really, really great, if I do say so myself. So of course, this is a collaboration. There are other people involved. I'm coming towards the end of the month. What are we on, the 26th today? And so there are, lots of videos to catch up on if you've not seen them already. Lots of interesting projects. We've all been inspired by different things, and even if we have been inspired by the same thing, we've all made different things. And this is great about these collaborations, is it just gives you the chance to think outside the box a little bit. With, when I was thinking about July, I sort of had a look at the birthstones and the flowers and that type of thing. And we had the ruby. And then from there, I was like, well, what can I do with the colour red? And that's how this project came to be. So I'm positioning it here just to make sure that I've got a red border the whole way round. And the project is quite big. As you saw, it took my whole 12 by 12 sheet of paper. I think the cover is something like 12 inches by 9 inches. So I had to stand up for a good portion of it, which was a new one for me. I don't usually stand when I'm crafting, but I just couldn't see. So if you see me come into a frame a couple of times, then that's why. I'm just not used to standing up and videoing at the same time. And then we're going to have the Tim Holtz glued down there. And then on top of that, we're going to have some pretty pockets. So one thing that I wanted to find out was why we have birthstones and, where they come from. Now, apparently, birthstones can be traced back to the Bible. In Exodus 28, Moses set forth directions for making special garments for the high priest of the Hebrews. Specifically, the breastplate was said that it was to contain 12 precious gemstones, ruby being one of them, and that was to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. Later, those 12 stones would be linked to the zodiac, and then later linked to the 12 months of the year. So if you've ever wondered as to why we have birthstones, well, it dates back to the Bible. And I found that very interesting. I don't think I expected that as a response, but I did find that interesting. Now I just need to find out why we have birth flowers and where that came to be, because I think that would be an interesting one to find out as well. I probably should have looked before doing the video, so I could tell you, but I'll have to look later. I was focused so much on the colour red and rubies, I didn't think about anything else at the time. So I've been using the Collab to glue these sheets down just because it's nice and quick. You can get good coverage with it, and it's a really, really good glue. It is strong, maybe not as strong as Fabri-Tac or Beacon, but it is strong enough for something like this. And as I say, it gets the job done quickly. So that is our flip out. Next, we're going to move on to the left-hand side of the cover. Now, we have this inscription here from 1882. There was no way I was going to cover that up, I'm sure you'll understand. So I decided that I would make a feature out of it. So I'm using this frame. It's a hunky-dory frame, and it's got beautiful golds and purples and reds in it, so I felt like it went really well with the project. The only downside is that it was slightly too not wide enough to fit the whole inscription in. So what I had to do in the end was decide which parts of the inscription I wanted to frame. So I did manage to keep most of it in there. The main thing was that I wanted the name and date and sort of the bulk of the inscription. I believe this is related to this particular lady getting gifted this music book because she was studying the piano back in 1882, which is extraordinary if you think about it, that I'd be working with something that old. So we have the frame, and I'm now just simply marking out how big the frame is, because my idea was to collage around the frame and build it up into this whole sort of piece, I guess. Now, I thought I would use more red in my collaging. You can see there I've got a few digitals, which I'll look at in a second. I really thought I was going to use reds. In the end, I went with a neutral collage, and I was really happy that I did that, because the neutral tones of the music sheets and the typography and everything gave my pockets and the frame and all my embellishments a chance to really stand out. So I am glad that I went with the neutral tones in the end. And what I'm doing is I'm arranging my pieces of paper. So where I've got the marks of the frame, I'm making it so that my papers are ever so slightly just over those markings, because my thoughts were that we could use the frame to like hide or mask the edges of the paper, you know, where my collaging would end, so that it all looked like part of one piece as opposed to just something that I've glued down myself onto the book cover, if that makes sense. So I have skipped through parts of the process because you don't need to see me spending 10 minutes gluing stuff. I just glued everything down with glue stick. So I'm just simply arranging my different pieces, everything just from my scrap box. And as I say, once I decided not to use these digitals, as beautiful as they are, I did decide to go with a lot of music sheet type pages and also a lot of interesting typography. I thought that would work really, really well with the project, and I am so pleased with how it turned out in the end. As you can see, just really interesting papers, all part of the vintage type of tone, but all different. And I thought that it just made it really interesting, and yeah, it does look really good, especially once we add the frame in. As I say, I was just coming over the lines ever so slightly so that the frame could hide the edges of my collaging. So I did keep checking to make sure that the frame was going to look good on top of these pieces. It's so strange to do a voiceover. I'm definitely not going to make a habit of this. It's very, very strange, but I'm hoping we're making it work. So this final piece, this is the last piece that I add to the collaging, and as I say, I glue everything down with a glue stick. So on the next piece, you'll see everything will be glued down, much the same as what you can see here. So I just sort of skipped that part out because, yeah, you don't need to. I think I spent a good 10 minutes on this collaging, so yeah, we don't need to watch that today. So I'm going to add some plastic packaging inside my frame. I thought this would be a great way to not only frame the inscription, but also give it a little bit of protection from, general wear and tear or whatnot. So I'm just using some offcuts of plastic packaging, just what we receive in the post, when we order something. And we just need to cut off all of the excess once we're glued in. and I'm using my Beacon 3-in-1 glue. I just find that it works really, really well with plastic packaging. I'm just being very careful not to get glue, you know, all inside the frame and everything. But how nice does that look on top of that collaging? It just all becomes something already, and we haven't even finished. So next we're going to add a couple of pockets beneath the frame. Now I've got this offcut from the Tim Holtz paper from when I had to cut the first piece down to size. And I've also got this piece, this roses paper. This is by Hunky Dory. I just had one A4 sheet of paper with this rose print on it. And you can't see on video, but the roses actually have a sparkle and a glitter overlay on them, which is really pretty. And I was thinking originally that the Tim Holtz would be in the front and we would further decorate up the pockets. But I decided that I didn't want to hide those roses. I just thought they were so beautiful. So I decided to make the Tim Holtz pocket a bigger one, and to have the roses pocket as be a small pocket in the front. And I'm glad I went with that option in the end. So I decided to add some lace to the top of my pockets. This is an antique lace that my husband's great aunt sent me, so it is in keeping with the project. I'm just simply gluing a strip of it to the top of each pocket. And getting glue on my desk. That's the usual. I just feel like the lace on top of the pockets just finished them off nicely, whilst giving them that feminine, vintage kind of look that I was going for with this project. So I end up adding lace to the tops of most of my pockets. We'll add some more pockets to the back cover in a second. I just think they work really, really well with the frame. And as I say, they just soften everything up. I do like working with pretty. That is very much me. So in Ruby and Pearl's original tutorial, she had the fabric as the first piece that she put down. So we're going to use fabric as our spine. In my case, I was using quite a thick upholstery fabric. You've seen me use this fabric a lot. And because I was doing the collaging element, I just didn't think that I was going to be able to put the fabric underneath my papers because they just, you know, the fabric was too thick and it would have looked a bit funny. I think the paper would have gone a bit bumpy or something. So I decided to have the fabric down as like the final piece because I felt like that just looked better and worked better for me. So with this larger pocket, we're going to add glue to the two sides. That allows us to have a really nice deep pocket. And then the smaller pocket that's going to go in the front, we're going to glue that on 3 sides. And that's going to be the bottom of both pockets, if that makes sense. I've really enjoyed working with this Tim Holtz paper. Mandy from SunflowersandDors kindly sent me a pad of it. And I've been making a Tim Holtz ring-bound journal, which you'll see next month. But I squirreled away this red paper that I've used on the back cover as well for this project because I just thought it worked so perfectly. And then, of course, we're you know, going a little bit feminine perhaps with the roses and the lace, but that is very much me. And I'm not used to working with the colour red. I don't often work with it. So here we're adding some more lace. Now I only had a little piece left of the lace that I was using before on the other 2 pockets. So I put it on anyway because we're going to, when we add the fabric along the spine, that's going to like cover the side of it, so it's not going to look funny or anything. Yeah, I don't work with the colour red very often. I do at Christmas time, and I think that's the only time that I work with the colour red, really. So with this one, so this is a big pocket that's going to go on the bottom of the back cover, and because it's such a deeper pocket, I felt like it needed more than just lace at the top. I felt like it needed more decoration on it. So I've got this bird image from the Cottage Rose kit by Collage Type. It is linked below if you'd like to have a look. And I felt like those birds really worked well with the rest of the papers. Not only do they bring in the vintage look, but they also bring in some more of the pinks. As I say, I don't work with the colour red very often, so I wanted to bring in some more pink tones as well as the vintage kind of look, just to tone down the red a little bit and not have it be quite so, you know, it is quite a bold colour. And yeah, I struggle sometimes to work with the colour red, but I'm glad that I was able to bring in some pink tones and yeah, just to tone it down a little bit, I think. And in the end, I think it all works out really, really quite well. So here I'm just gluing the lace, a different type of lace, along the middle. And it was only until I laid it on top of the paper that I realised how stark white the lace is. And it's because the Roses paper has a little bit of a vintage kind of tone. So I decided to just run my distress ink over the lace just a little bit, not to grungy it up too much or anything, but just to age it a little bit. And I think that worked just fine. So because we have the fabric going over the side a little bit, I wanted to check where I should place the birds because I didn't want it to look funny with the birds being off center or anything. I did want them in the middle. So we're just going to glue that down like so. Yeah, I might have said this before, but doing these voiceovers is very, very strange. I'm definitely not going to make a habit of it, but as I say, I just really wanted this project to be one video, and I like the idea of you being able to just see one video and see a project start to finish come to life and get all the information you need to actually, you know, follow along and make the project if you wanted to, or something like it. But yeah, doing these voiceovers is very, very strange. So we're going to glue the pockets on 3 sides. And we just want to make sure that we're not going to get the pockets in the way of our flap. So you'll see me in a minute. I want them sort of butted up nicely against the piece that hinges out, but I don't want the pockets to get in the way of that hinge. So just bear that in mind if you are going to give something like this a go. And of course, you know, you can use any book cover for this project. You know, you could do a smaller one, a larger, well, I don't know if you can get larger, but you can certainly do smaller. And if you've got book covers that have, you know, come away from their spines, they're falling apart, they don't have a spine, if you just have the book covers, then this can be a really great option to turn them into something, you know, functional and usable and beautiful, rather than things just going in the bin or not being able to be used. Another way that I like to use book covers if they've come away from the spines, or if they're, you know, too fragile like this one, is to use individual book covers as writing boards. Sometimes you can get smaller book covers and actually have them tucked into pockets in journals, or you can get larger ones and you could have like a clipboard style writing board, and I just find them really useful for that. So one day I will do a video on it. I've been meaning to, so stay tuned for that one day. I'm sure we'll find time because I'm always making writing boards out of book covers. So because this project was so big, it took my full 12-inch height paper. I did actually have to stand up to do some of this because I just couldn't see. So if you see me come into frame a couple of times, then yeah, sorry. I'm not used to standing up whilst crafting on video. So here I'm just running some crochet along the side of this flip out. It's just where I had I cut the paper wrong and I had a little bit of a funny border. So I thought that would just finish that off. And now we're ready to add our fabric spine. So I'm using a really thick upholstery fabric, as I said, and so I wasn't worried about the glue seeping through or anything like that. So I put a really, really good helping of glue on this project. I used my Beacon 3-in-1 glue over everything, including the spine, the original spine in the middle. And then I also go over everything with my Collab glue as well. So you've got both glues acting together. As I say, I wasn't worried about the glue seeping through, so I'm glad that I did it this way. It really, really stuck everything down well. But if I was using a thinner fabric, I would have been a lot more careful with the glue so as to have a thinner layer, because it can very easily seep through thinner fabrics. I'm just going to give that a really, really good press down. Really get it into that glue. And we're going to do the same on the back cover, the back of the piece as well. So again, I'm using a really good helping of glue. I'm using my Beacon 3-in-1 glue and the Collab, again, just to get everything stuck down just really, really well. I didn't want to cover up too much of the front cover, with all that beautiful gold inlay. So I was trying to be careful about where I was placing the fabric so as to not eat into the covers too much, whilst it still needs to be a wide enough piece to act as a decent decent spine, sorry. I like to think I managed it, and I am glad that I went with the gold upholstery fabric, even though it was quite a thick fabric. I just think it works really well for the project, both in the colour of it, but also the lushness and the vintage behind it, and just the elegance of the whole project, I guess. So we're going to give that a really good pressing down. And at this point, I was actually starting to get surprised about how much the fabric had helped make the cover sturdy and strong. It always surprises me, because before the cover was quite flimsy with that lack of spine, the old spine. But with working with fabric, especially thicker fabrics like this, it can bulge in places. So I went over it for a good few minutes with my bone folder, just to really spread out that glue and make sure that the fabric was down flat, whilst also making it so that the book cover can still hinge, open and closed without any problems. But yeah, I did have to go over it a good few minutes with my bone folder to make sure that it wasn't bulging up in funny places, and because it can do that. Now at this point, the cover started to kick up quite a bit because of the amount of bulk that we've got from the fabric. But later on, and I mentioned this later, the book cover starts to sit really flat later on. So don't worry too much if it does kick up whilst you're making it. Over time, normally it should sort of settle down a bit. So I decided to finish off all my fabric spine with some crochet trim. It was partly for the look of it. I felt like it finished off nicely and gave it that elegant kind of look that I was going for, but it also would stop the fabric from fraying too much. So the crochet was acting as a little bit of a protection as well, as finishing it off nicely. But you know, don't feel like you have to do the lace trim or the crochet trim. If you prefer the like frayed shabby look, you might prefer to do that. It's not necessary. So we're putting the crochet trim on the front and back, and then later we'll also do it in the middle. As I say, I was just doing it to finish things off and just to protect my edges of my fabric a little bit. And just, yeah, giving that a really good press down so as not to come off. How gorgeous is this cover though? I mean, the back is all embossed and the front has got all that gold inlay. I think I spent half the project just staring at the cover, to be honest. So as I say, we're going to put the same crochet trim in the middle as well. And I love that rose paper. As I say, I was saving it for a special-ish project because I only had one A4 sheet of it. And yeah, I really like those roses, the way that they are. And I'm glad that I had enough to do the 3 pockets, mixed in with the Tim Holtz. Some people might be screaming at me, no, why would you mix Tim Holtz with roses? But I did it anyway. This project has been, you know, a learning curve and an experiment for me, but also it's been a chance for me to, you know, really make something that I think is my style. You know, we've got the whole vintage kind of look, which I had so much fun working with and playing with and staring at, but also we're bringing in the pretty. I do like working with pretty and all the lace. I do love working with lace and fabrics and beautiful colours and gold. I love it all, don't I? So here I'm just coming over my collaging with my vintage photo and a blending brush, just where I didn't ink individual pieces of the paper. So this just browns off the edges a little bit and just, yeah, helps blend things in. So I just thought I would show you that in case you've not seen it. So here we're going to work on a removable notepad that we're going to add inside. So here I'm using an offcut of the roses paper, just whatever I had left, to make a topper for the notepad. And I've had to score it a couple of times because it was very thick paper. I think where the roses have that sort of glitter overlay, I think the paper's just got quite a few layers to it, to be honest. But anyway, we're going to make a topper for the notepad, and what that allows us to make is both a removable notepad and also one that is reusable, so you can replace the paper when you're finished with it. And it looks pretty as well, so that helps. But of course, because the paper was so thick, I did have to go over with my bone folder, and I really had to use some muscle to go over it a few times, just to really, really flatten that edge down. I hope you're enjoying how the project is looking so far. As I say, I'm in love with how it turns out, so I do hope you guys like it as well. So I've got 3 sheets of parchment paper here. Because it's quite thick paper, it's good quality paper, I've only got 3 sheets because I didn't want this notepad to be too heavy, because this is going to go on the flap out piece. So we're just going to round the front 2 corners of the sort of topper, I guess, for the notepad. And then we're going to punch a couple of holes in it, thread some string through and tie a bow. And as I say, what that allows is for the pad to be reusable. So, you know, when the papers have been used, they can just be untied from the bow, some new paper and holes put in, and you can even reuse the topper and just thread the string back through as well. So it means that we can actually use these notepads. I don't know about you, but I always struggle with writing in these journals because they're so beautiful. I don't want to ruin them. So I feel like this kind of thing does allow for the project to actually be used and not have, you know, the worry of ruining something, because it can just be replaced. So we're just going to thread the twine from the back through to the front, tie a little bow, and as I say, that just allows us to have new papers added in when we need to, when we're ready for replacing these. And doesn't it look so pretty with that roses paper and the twine? So as I say, this is going to live on the flap out piece. So I need a strip of paper. So I've just got this offcut of Tim Holtz. And I'm going to glue it on two sides, almost like a belly band. And what that allows us to do is tuck the roses topper, I guess if you want to call it that, behind this strip. Now, later on, I do actually move this strip down by a good ½ an inch, maybe even 3/4 of an inch, because what I didn't account for is that the holes and the twine stops the pad from going down as far as you think. It's probably just me and my lack of a logical brain that I didn't think that one through. But so basically what I did later was I actually just moved it down, and then I just inked over it any paper that had maybe come up a little bit. Some of the decorative paper, you can lose the top layer of paper. You just ink over it and yeah, you can't even tell. But as I say, if you're going to follow along, then yeah, definitely make some room for that topper. And also it helps if you wait for your glue to dry. At this point I was just being very impatient and I need to wait for the glue to dry. That's a same old story for me, I'm afraid. I'll never change. And we're going to add these butterflies. I forget where I got this digital from, but it was a big butterfly kit. You got all different colours of butterflies, all different sizes and types. It was a big kit. So I will link it down below for you. I just need to go and find who I bought it from. But I just felt like these finished off that collaging a little bit, bringing in some more of the red colour. And yeah, just, well, I love to use butterflies, don't I? I actually wanted to have a butterfly on the music title page, but I restrained myself. And we just have a couple of butterflies in the corner. So to finish things off then, I added some gold corner protectors, and I'm going to run some gold acrylic paint all the way around the outside. Now about these corner protectors, when I was making the flap, I didn't account for the fact that I wanted the corner protectors on there. So because I'm only using very small ones, I could just squeeze them in. But do bear that in mind if you're going to add corner protectors. You might want the flap on the other side. So as I say, I went around all the edges with the gold acrylic paint, and then whilst I was there, I wanted to tidy up some of my painting, and I noticed that the baby wipe was also coming off very black. So then I decided to clean up the cover a little bit, and yeah, it just brightened the red quite a bit actually. And that is that. Let's put some finishing touches on it. Hi everyone, I'm back to the present now. So I'm going to, oops, just open that up. The paint is still, yeah, needs to dry a little bit, but we're good for now. So I'm just going to come along and fill the pockets. So I've got these bits of elements from the Cottage Rose kit by Daneen from Collage Type. Thought we could have those in there because they go with all of the pinks and roses type of a vibe. I've also got these two journal cards. I've printed these onto linen paper and it made them really nice and vibrant. And again, they're from the same kit. There's linked below if you'd like to have a look. And let's just open that up. Got these, so these were actually a page in the kit. I've printed them out and backed them, but I think I might actually print these in linen paper later, because I did really like that look. But for now we're going to have those two journal cards in there. And then to go with the parchment paper, which I've clipped in just there, because otherwise if you open the flap without pulling the paper with it, I was finding that it was flapping around a bit too much. So in here we've got a selection of envelopes. These are actually Edith Holden Country Diary envelopes. They're really nice, like sort of parchmenty type paper, and so I felt like they kind of went with the theme. And we're going to have them something like that in there. I kind of want them more dispersed out a little bit. And that is the inside all finished. Might need to add a little bit of extra glue in here and there, but I'm really happy with it. And then for the outside, and it doesn't kick up as much as it was earlier. I've left it laid flat for a couple of hours and it is actually laying much better now, so that's good. Just want to check the edges. I think the paint is dry. So we're going to have a ribbon closure. This is just some blush ribbon I'm going to tie around a couple of times. Let's go around another time. Do you think it's long enough? Yeah, it should be. Don't want to cover up that writing, so I kind of want to go in between the text. I've absolutely adored this project. It's been so much fun. The video is going to be a tough one to edit because the project did end up actually being, you know, all afternoon, but I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Okay, so that's that. And then we've got this cobblejon. They called that cobblejon. It's a poppy rather than a rose, but it goes with the red and gold. My husband's great aunt sent me this, and I thought that would just finish it off nicely. And that is my project for Isn't July So Interesting? As I mentioned, I was inspired by the birthstone of July, which is the ruby, so I worked on this red project and I'm in love with it. I'm really happy with how that's gone today, and considering it only took me an afternoon, that's come together quite quickly as well. So the cover, it still has all of the aging, you know, we've got like wax, we've got stains, we've got, I think there's even a music stamp on there somewhere. So, I mean, this is 100 plus years old, 200 years old, I think. 150? I'll figure it out and put it in the description box. But it's cleaned up really nicely, and then we've got all that gold edging that I've been doing. In the book corners. It's quite big. Obviously it took my full 12-inch piece of paper, so it's a big one. But I just, isn't it gorgeous? I really am so happy with how that's gone. So let's just have a little flip through, shall we? I've just lighted the ends of the ribbon as well, so they won't fray. Who knows? They're going to get in the way. There we are. So we've got our bits and bobs in our pockets, and there's that 1882 reference again. So I'll just bring you down so you can see the whole thing. That's nicely framed, so there's no damaging that in theory. The original cover, complete with, you know, stamping and staining and whatnot, I've just left that as is. I actually really wanted to put the butterfly on it, but I didn't. I restrained myself. And we open it up, and then we have our removable little notepad. We've got our envelopes and some more journal cards, and yeah, it's gorgeous, it's big, it's elegant. I'm really happy with that, absolutely. I think that I couldn't have asked for that to have gone better today, so I'm really chuffed with it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. As I say, it will be a little bit of a task to edit it down into one video, but I'll do my best for you. As always, thanks ever so much for joining me. This was for a collaboration, so there are other people involved, as I mentioned, so do check out their videos. lots of fabulous inspiration going on this month and lots of different things. I'll just say goodbye whilst I faff with my bows, the usual. Yeah, some fabulous things, all different. Everyone seems to be doing things differently, and even if we're inspired by the same facts of July or interesting things about July, the projects are all completely different. So anyway, I will leave it there. Thanks ever so much for joining me. I hope I've done this antique music cover justice. I do hope that now it can go on to live a new life. That was the whole point about today, was just giving something that was essentially broken and falling apart. I wanted to give it a chance to be something again and be useful again and, well, take pride of place somewhere. And for now I'm just going to, well, spend the next few hours just staring at it, I think. Anyway, thanks ever so much everyone, and we'll speak soon. Bye bye for now.